I'd give up my gold for one night, the mountain man told the heavy work girl. The most shocking offer of Crowley, it seemed, froze the air. In the ensuing silence, only the creak of the old saloon doors was heard. Eleanor, as if waking from a nightmare, looked around the crowd. In every look, she saw a mixture of condemnation, curiosity, and contempt. The words James had said to her in private echoed in her ears. A truth that destroyed my life and which, I think, will soon destroy yours. What was this secret? Why did he, this mysterious prospector, decide to buy her for one night with a fortune? It was incomprehensible to her how one could so easily squander wealth that could save an entire town. Listen, I don't know what you're talking about. Eleanor's voice trembled, but she tried to make it as firm as possible. I don't need your charity, and am not for sale. Crowley smiled, his face showing neither mockery nor malice, only a kind of bitter, heavy weariness. This isn't charity, and it's not about the price. The price is what we pay, and what you hear is just a ransom. I'm trying to ransom you. To ransom you from what you don't know, from what awaits you. The crowd stirred. This was no longer just an offer. It was a warning, imbued with some sinister secret. Eleanor, trying to maintain her composure, took a step forward. From what? She asked. Tell me straight. Crowley looked back at the saloon, then looked at Eleanor again. His eyes narrowed. Not here, he said quietly but firmly. Not in front of everyone. One night, at my place. There I will tell you everything. And then you yourself will decide what this truth was worth. Behind Crowley, a silhouette briefly appeared, unnoticed. It was Francis McCabe, the owner of the Dusty Vulture Saloon, a stout, burly man with an eternally sweaty, fleshy neck who seemed to blend in with the gloom of the establishment he ran. He was known for his greed, his lack of principles, and for having amassed a fortune over the years by collecting debts from people like Eleanor and her late father. Upon seeing Crowley offer Eleanor gold, McCabe turned pale. His small, piggy eyes darted around. He quickly rushed to the doorstep and, squeezing through the crowd, approached Eleanor with a saccharine smile. Eleanor, my dear, what's going on here? His voice was ingratiating, but there was a hidden anxiety in it. I don't know, Francis, Eleanor replied. This man McCabe interrupted her, turning to Crowley. Sir, I don't understand all this theater. If you want to make an offer, let's get down to business. Business? Crowley laughed, but there was no joy in his laughter. My business here is Eleanor, and she will make her choice. Eleanor hesitated. She knew that by accepting his offer, she was putting her reputation on the line, which was already hanging by a thread. But she was even more afraid of the unknown. What was this secret that could destroy her life? It had always seemed to her that her life was an open book, full of hard work, but not intrigues. Now, however, a shadow of doubt crept into her soul. Did she really not know something? I agree, Eleanor said, to her own surprise, her voice sounding firm, drowning out the crowd's whispers. I'll go with you, but only to listen. And if you lied, I won't take a single grain of your gold. Crowley nodded. He picked up the bag, and its weight seemed to be not from the gold, but from the burden of the truth he was carrying. McCabe, standing nearby, grabbed her arm. Eleanor, what are you doing? Come to your senses. I'm going to find out the truth, Francis. Let go of my hand, she said. You're not going. McCabe hissed, and a glint of malice flashed in his eyes. You have no right. Crowley noticed the scene. His eyes, until now cold, ignited with a dangerous fire. He approached McCabe, and his imposing figure loomed over the thick man. She has made her decision, McCabe. And you can't do anything, Crowley said, and it was not a question, but a statement that sent shivers down McCabe's spine. He quickly retreated, but his eyes showed shock and fear. He did not know what secret connected these two, but he felt that his carefully built world was about to collapse. As dusk fell, Eleanor walked down the dusty road behind Crowley, towards the mountains. The moon rose, casting long shadows. The air grew cool. She walked in silence, feeling her heart pound in her chest. Behind her were the lights of Red Creek and the looks full of condemnation. She did not know where this man was leading her, and what truth awaited her at the top, but she was ready to find out. Why? Her whole life had been a struggle. She was not used to giving up. And now, when she was offered something more than just gold, she couldn't refuse. She walked down the road and thought that her life, which seemed so simple and understandable, was now shrouded in mystery. Crowley's house, squeezed into a crevice between two huge rocks, was not so much a house as a cave carved into stone. Inside it was cold and damp, and the walls gleamed with moisture. Near the smoldering fire lay several deer hides, and a bunch of dried herbs hung on a hook. James silently pointed to the only chair, made of rough boards. He did not go through any unnecessary ceremonies. He poured the gold from the bag onto an old table, and its shine, like a flame, lit up the gloomy face of the prospector. "Yours? Every last grain, as I promised," he said, his voice a whisper. "Now you'll know what for." Eleanor sat down, trying not to show her nervousness. She didn't touch the gold. She didn't care how much was there. She had come for the truth, and now that she was so close, her fear mixed with a burning curiosity. "I'm listening," she said. Crowley sat opposite her, his arms crossed over his chest. His face in the firelight looked even harsher. "You know who I am," he began. "My name is James Crowley, but that's not my real last name. My real last name is McCabe." These words crashed down on Eleanor like a rockslide. It was incomprehensible that this man was one of the McCabes. That's impossible," she whispered, trying to grasp what she had heard. "The McCabe's my father," Crowley interrupted her, "is Francis McCabe, and my uncle, Henry McCabe, is your father's father. They were brothers, which means you and I are first cousins." Eleanor stood up abruptly, her eyes widened in shock. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You're lying." "My father," she began, but Crowley interrupted her again. "Your father, William McCabe, was an honest man. He left the family because he couldn't stand their greed and dishonor anymore. He tried to start a new life, away from Red Creek, and away from him." Crowley nodded towards the mountains. "Here, in the mountains, he found a place where he could start a new life. But your family, your mother and you, were against it. You wanted to stay in Red Creek, because here there was work and there was life, and in the mountains only emptiness." Crowley's words sounded more and more convincing. He spoke about how Francis had always envied his brother's honesty and how he hated him for his principles. He spoke about how they often argued, and how Francis tried to frame William. Eleanor listened to him, her eyes filling with tears. She remembered how her father often came home, beaten and drunk. She had always thought they were just random fights, but now she understood that it was Francis. "But why?" Eleanor whispered. "Why would he do that? He always wanted to take his share from him. Your father had one small mine, which Francis thought was empty. But it wasn't. There was gold in it that your father wanted to give to you, and he wanted to run away from Red Creek with you to start a new life." Eleanor remembered how her father often talked about gold, about how he would find it and then they would run away. She had always thought it was just drunken babble, but now she understood that it was the truth. "And now you," Crowley continued, "you think Francis is helping you? He's just waiting for you to be in debt to him to take your share, which rightfully belongs to you. He will buy you out so that you can't go anywhere. He will keep you in slavery, just as he tried to do with your father." Eleanor stood up abruptly. Anger boiled in her soul. She couldn't believe that the man who had been helping her was actually her enemy. She remembered all the times he had tried to support her when he helped her with debts. Now she understood that it was not help, but a trap. She had been too blind to see it. "I'm going," Eleanor said firmly. "I'll tell him I know everything." "No," Crowley stopped her. "You can't do that. If you go to him, you will become a target. I know he is capable of anything to keep his secret." "He killed my father to keep the secret," Crowley said, not looking at Eleanor. The light in Crowley's eyes this time was different. There was no malice or sadness in it. There was cold determination. He picked up the bag of gold and held it out to Eleanor. "This is not just gold. This is your freedom, your life. Take it, and get out of here. Don't look back. Go and start a new life," he said. Eleanor took the bag. It was heavy, but she didn't feel its weight. She only felt the weight of the truth. She knew she couldn't stay in Red Creek. She knew she had to leave. She had to find her father to tell him the truth. But she also knew that she couldn't leave without Crowley. He was her only chance. "I won't leave without you," she said. "You have to come with me. I can't leave you." Crowley smiled. "Me?" he asked. "You can't leave me?" "You're my brother," Eleanor said. A tear glistened in Crowley's eyes. He hugged Eleanor, and they both cried. They were not just relatives. They were two halves of one whole, who had found each other in this crazy, cruel world. "We won't leave," Crowley said firmly. "We'll take what belongs to us, and we'll punish him for everything he's done." It was at this moment that Eleanor felt not only when the sun rose, Red Creek, it seemed, had not yet woken up, but in the dusty Vulture saloon, work was already in full swing. Francis McCabe, nervously wiping glasses, barely concealed the trembling in his hands. He hadn't slept all night, tormented by the unknown. Where was Eleanor? What did that damned prospector tell her? His small eyes kept casting nervous glances at the entrance, as if expecting the very people he so feared to see to appear at any moment. The door burst open, and they appeared on the threshold. Eleanor and Crowley, standing shoulder to shoulder. Their appearance was calm, but their eyes burned with righteous anger. Crowley stepped forward, and Eleanor held the bag of gold in her hand, which seemed lighter than a feather to her, because it symbolized not wealth, but truth and liberation. She approached the counter, and her gaze, in which there was no longer a hint of fear, met Francis' frightened gaze. "Francis," she began, her voice as hard as steel, "I know everything." McCabe turned pale. He instantly understood that his secret was no longer a secret. His face, always faint and cordial, now contorted into a grimace of fear. What are you talking about? I don't know anything," he stammered, trying to look away. "You're lying. You know what you did to my father and how you tried to destroy my life." Eleanor poured the gold onto the table. The coins, like small suns, blinded McCabe. "This," she said, "is your payment for all the years you took from my family. This is my price for freedom." At that moment, several people burst into the saloon. These were workers who had come for their debts. They had heard that McCabe had bought the gold, but no one knew that it didn't belong to him. "McCabe, you promised to pay us," they shouted. McCabe, in a panic, didn't know what to do. He grabbed a revolver and aimed it at Eleanor. "I'll kill you," he hissed, but his hand was shaking. "I won't give you a cent." Crowley stepped forward, his hand resting on his holster. "Don't, Francis," he said calmly. "You've already lost." McCabe fired. The bullet whistled past Eleanor and hit a glass bottle behind her. Crowley, in turn, drew his revolver, and his shot was accurate. The bullet hit McCabe in the shoulder, and he fell, dropping his weapon. The workers, seeing that they had been deceived, rushed to the table where the gold lay. They began to collect it, swearing and pushing each other. Eleanor and Crowley watched this calmly. They knew they couldn't change anything. "This isn't our gold," Crowley said. "This is our father's gold, and it should belong to everyone." Eleanor nodded. She understood that her father, before he died, wanted her to give this gold to the workers so that they could start a new life. And she did it. She gave away the gold that could have made her rich. She gave it away to restore justice. A few minutes later, the gold was all gone. The workers, looking at Eleanor and Crowley, were silent. There was no gratitude in their eyes, only understanding. They understood that Eleanor and Crowley were not like McCabe. They were people of honor. Eleanor and Crowley, without saying a word, left the saloon. They got on their horses and rode away. At that moment, Eleanor realized that she had not only found a brother but had also found herself. She had freed herself from the chains that had held her whole life. The story of Eleanor and Crowley is not just a story about gold, it is a story about truth and choice. In every person's life, there are moments when they have to choose between the easy way and the truth. Eleanor, faced with a choice, made the right one, which changed her life. This story teaches us that what seems easy is not always right. It teaches us that the truth always comes to the surface, and even if it hurts, it always sets you free. This story is a metaphor for the modern world. We live in a world where people often compromise their conscience for money, power, or fame. But the story of Eleanor and Crowley reminds us that there are things that are more valuable than money and power. These are honor, loyalty, and truth. These are the things that make us human. This is what we should value.